job on maintaining a normal social life, it can have a big impact on people's lives.
Yeah.
And you probably can think of that both ways, like before someone goes through the change, or they're just maybe not doing the change because of personal conflicts, family conflicts, family pressure, that, okay, I know this is happening to me, and I know that I'm a woman in a man's body, but before they go through the change, there's a whole slew of problems, right, that you can probably identify. And then after the change, there's probably a whole slew of other problems that you can identify and say, okay, now it's almost like you've been through a trauma. So when we treat somebody with PTSD, or something like that, it's like a huge change in your life, and I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
That change.
You certainly, I mean, there's a whole new aspect of sort of body image disorder that comes into play post-transition.
Wow, I can't, yeah.
That, before it was just all wrong, and now it's like, you see all the magazines. I've made the comment that the whole sort of social pressure for girls to look and act a certain way,
yeah.
I feel that so much more acutely now, that people are seeing and identifying me that way.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That wasn't there before.
Right, it's so different, like pre and then post. I mean, you have this whole different set of problems that I'm sure a good therapist or a good psychiatrist or a good psychiatric nurse practitioner can find those codes and put them in.
Right.
But.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot that goes on after, a lot that goes on pre, and a lot that goes on after, and there's a lot of things you're prepared for, and a lot of things you just aren't. There's always surprises, which was a surprise to me that there were surprises. As a transsexual person, you spend a lot of time studying this, and you think you know every nuance of this is all about and what's going to happen.
There's always something new.
And there's always things in there you didn't expect, but yeah, it's.
Well, it's also hard to calculate for the sort of emotional upheaval you're going to go through.
Yes.
When your hormones rebalance.
Yeah.
That's just, that's funness on a whole different level.
Yeah.
And another positive thing too is the attitude. You have such a different attitude after the change.
Yes.
It's so much different than the original person.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Is it a good attitude?
Oh, yeah.
Or bad attitude?
It's the best.
Much improved. Mine is much improved.
Yeah. Well, it must be. It's like, wow, I'm finally myself.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know.
It is. Exactly.
It's
exactly.
A lot of stress just gone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I had talked about it at the class, but I had a history growing up of throwing temper tantrums, of getting in really, really violent arguments. And when I was 16, and again when I was 18, the neighbors called the police for domestic violence. My mother didn't press charges. Through school, up until I was 28, 29, 30 years old, I was still having these very violent outbursts whenever I got into angry, cornered, helpless kind of situation. And I would wake up in the morning angry at the world. I'd be driving to work in a road rage on my way to work. Nothing had happened yet, but I was starting at this really high threshold already. And through therapy and through transition, it's become very apparent that it was this dysphoria, it was this gender identity, gender incongruency that was at the root of it. That waking up every day having to deal with myself being wrong just was setting my feelers off at a very, very low threshold for everyone else.
And you knew about that when you were like 16, or before then?
I hadn't made the connection between the two until I started seeing a therapist, and then I started to make the connection. But I had seen therapists growing up, and they kept telling my parents, "Oh, it's just a phase. Don't worry, it'll outgrow it. It's just acting out, just normal youth rebellion."
Yeah.
missed. You know,
Right.
4 or 5 therapists, and none of them, none of them got close actually. But when I finally saw a therapist around 28, 29, 30, I eventually, it's a group psychotherapy, and I eventually came out to the group and said, I really have a problem with my gender. And that's when the therapist started going, tell me more.
Right.
This might make sense here.
Yes.
And once I got on hormones and I did my public transition and I started living my daily life, that doesn't mean I don't get angry from time to time. It doesn't mean I don't experience frustration and stress. But that whole waking up already at 90% pissed off
Right, right. right.
was definitely out of the picture at that point. That's definitely
Yeah.
gone.
Well, it must have been a huge load
So that, I mean, this-
lifted from you.
Yeah,
know?
as my own concrete example, what Stacy's talking about and what Renee mentioned about how sort of post-transition, you're so much happier, you're so much more content, there's just so much load lifted off your shoulders because you're not dealing with all of the emotional mess that comes with the incongruity.
Right.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, in order to help healthcare professionals such as myself to be more empathic and open-minded, do you have anything that you could share with me, or that I could share again with my students? Because now I have a different group of students. The students that you saw there, now I have a different group.
And we would
that
love to come back and talk to your new students.
Oh, this is a quick-moving group, so if you want to come very quickly, I would love to have you come.
Yeah,
We'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah,
but
okay.
the bottom line is, I think, and I say this all the time, but the bottom line is we're people just like everybody else. We really aren't that different. You're breaking things over there.
Yeah.
We're really not that different, and I would just ask that that medical professionals sort of try to understand that and treat us just like anybody else. And we're very open to whatever questions. We're not shy about any of this, which I think people. I think there is sort of an impression. I can't ask this. I can't. We're not shy. We've been through so much with this and talked about it so much with so many people that at this point, I think it's typical that it's like, ask us whatever you want.
The panel that we done a couple of weeks ago in regards to the library books.
The Human Library. Yeah.
Oh,
Human Library, that was one-on-one, and I think that was a great idea because it gave the people an opportunity. They weren't afraid to ask whatever they had to ask. It was like a one-on-one.
They weren't
and it was
asking in
much-
front of a classroom
much
full
more
of people.
easier
Sure.
for them.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought the students were great,
They were.
asking really open questions, and you all were very excellent about, just saying, come on, encouraging, come on, ask us, because,
I dare you to ask me that embarrassing question.
right, but I
We
think,
point out each time we do this that we are just notoriously difficult to shock. At this point, we've seen a lot.
Yeah. And we've heard it all.
yeah,
Well, not all. I think your class was the first time we had anybody ask us whether or not we had any pets that had problems with our transition.
Yeah.
oh,
That's right.
yeah, somebody
That was
did,
new.
somebody
That was
asked
new.
that, yeah, because
A
it's.
good question, too.
Yeah. When I went to the UConn Health Center, and you told me what it was, Ethics and Law.
Oh, the Transgender Health and Law Conference.
Health and Law Conference. What was really very interesting is I think one of the sessions I went to was something about, roadblocks, or I can't remember the name of the
Sure.
session, but that's the type of venue that I think really does work well. It was similar to what Renee was talking about, where we got to sit, and I took my husband with me, and we got to sit at a table with, just like a round table for discussion, and we really got a chance to talk to people individually and get their story. So I think it kind of puts, rather than just a classification of something,
Right.
transgendered, it allows us to put a humanness to